Gloria Browne-Marshall is an associate professor of constitutional law at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Gloria, great to talk to you. So we heard Ryan Bundy talking about the Constitution and how it doesn't give the federal government the right to own lands. Can you address that?
Well, the federal government has the right to own land. The federal government within the U.S. Constitution is given particular authority to make laws, needful laws, to run the government. And so that includes buying land.
And administering this land, the Bureau of Land Management administers about an eighth of the land total in the United States of America. Ryan Bundy says that that land should be available. The mineral rights, the grazing, the water, every resource should be available to the actual people to profit off of that. Is there any provision in the U.S. Constitution for people who don't own the land to profit from it?
No. I mean, here we have people who live in cities who would love to say, I'd like to own part of Herald Square. Why isn't that available to me? I mean, this is just the way it is. Unfortunately, there's land that was purchased for preservation in order to save the animals on it or to keep it as a natural resource. There are many reasons why the federal government buys land and holds it to itself.
Okay, so you don't think that legally speaking, they have much of a case to say the government needs to get off of this and let us profit from this land?
I think it's a nice concept, and I see this as a protest that puts that issue before the government. Maybe it needs to go back and review the laws around the ownership of this land, but that doesn't mean that it automatically goes back to the people.
There are an awful lot of people who online see this as terrorism. In fact, we've seen trending on Twitter, Al Qaeda or Yeehaw. And when we're looking at that, there's a question that I have about whether this is endangering anyone. It's happening at a rural, remote wildlife sanctuary, a wildlife refuge. How do you see this in terms of criminal action?
Well, it is criminal action. It's trespass. If it's protest, then these people have decided that they're going to do something called civil disobedience. They feel that they're in a just situation and opposing an unjust law. But that also has criminal implications. Whether or not it's out in the wild or in Baltimore or New York City, there are still laws about trespass. And this is not their land, and so therefore they're trespassing.
When this first erupted on the national consciousness and in the national headlines, I immediately thought of Waco, Texas, and of Ruby Ridge. And these are a couple of the standoffs that happened, Waco in 1993 and Ruby Ridge. I mean, that one, Waco, 51 days. There were so many Branch Davidians who were killed there. I think the final number there was 82 Branch Davidians who were killed. A third of those were kids. It was a devastating, tragic episode in our nation's history. Ruby Ridge, the government ended up awarding $3.1 million to the man that originally was causing the standoff there, a white separatist named Randy Weaver. Do you think that's informing how the government is responding here?
Definitely. I think that President Obama does not want to see this happen on his last year of his last administrative term. I think that this is a situation in which you have armed people. And if you turn this around, put armed black teenagers in the wilderness and they're taking over government land, you would still have a situation that's a standoff. I don't know if the federal government would react the same way. They've not done so in urban situations. But, you know, there is a history of dealing with people who are in what they call militia, and they're armed, and they will fight back if the federal government moves in. Not all of them, but there'll be enough that there could be bloodshed.
They say they want this to end peacefully and without violence. And I asked what it would take for that to happen. And they said, well, the government needs to stop owning property and start allowing the people to profit from this public land. The FBI, which has now taken the lead in the investigation, released a statement saying the FBI is working with the Harney County Sheriff's Office, Oregon State Police, and other local and state law enforcement agencies to bring a peaceful resolution to the situation at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. If this ends peacefully, and we all hope it does, what kind of charges might the folks who've engaged in this standoff, whether it's civil disobedience or something else, what kind of charges might they face?
They should face charges for trespassing. Unfortunately, when it comes to civil disobedience, even though the person is taking a step against the government and they feel the government is wrong, there are criminal implications. That's what happens in urban areas, and that's just what is supposed to happen in this situation. I don't know if the government is going to press all the charges that are available. To face off against the government armed takes this to another level. There could be possible felony issues here, but I don't think the federal government is going to take it to that level. My concern is what's going to happen next. It could be in the wilderness today. It could be in an urban environment tomorrow with these same people saying they want something from the federal government that the government is not willing to give.
Gloria, it's so great of you to join us and lend your expertise and your professional insight. Thank you.
Thank you.